Hey there, boys and girls of the YouTube world. The Duff Dog and I got another good one for you today. We just picked this 1977 Chevrolet K10, so that means it is a four-wheel drive half-ton that's already been LS swapped. It's got a 5.3, still got the turbo 350 and a 203 transfer case. It's got some 33 by 1250 15 tires on it. Got a 2-inch lift kit in it. We paid $3,500. So the background on this one was I went and picked up a center console for the Blueser, so the 74 Blazer, and he's like, hey, I got this LS swap pickup. He shot me a price. I think he said like $4,500, and I said, not really interested. $3,500 is where I gotta be. Fast forward a couple months, he moved to Michigan. He says, I gotta come back. I gotta sell my house, get rid of all my stuff. He says, if you give me $3,500, it's yours. So we drove this thing 70 miles home. It's pretty good, but it needs some finishing. Let's take a look at it. Duff approves. He's already went for a few rides in the bed. It's a mishmash of things. It's got a 78.9 hood, Chin says. That's where the reveal is from. He's got a 73.4, the deep egg crate grill. And then it's got the later 78.9 headlight surrounds. The bumper is welded on, and it's kind of tweaked and whatnot. But yeah, it's got really good tires on it. There's those 33, 12, 50, 15s. It's got rallies. We're missing a few lug nuts, and it's also got the wrong beauty ring on the left front. It's got a leak in power steering sector like they all do. It's got them dang old coilover shocks, and it rides like it's got them. Not good. Short wheelbase, big tires, lift kit, coilover shocks, rides terrible. Needs a windshield and a seal. Looks like she's been glued in there. He took her to a couple of car shows, it looks like. He'd had this pickup for quite a while. I think he came from Utah. It's pretty dry, but it's got a little rust in the cab corners. The doors don't fit real great. It's got a lot of mix and match panels on it. We're gonna have to fix that regulator. We did get a good locking pliers out of the deal. The steering column, super sloppy. It was a 4-speed pickup. Clutch pedal stuck to the floor. It's got a bunch of additional switches and whatnot going on down here.
Pressing the self-destruct button.
None of the factory gauges work. The only gauge that works is this oil pressure gauge that's just kind of hanging on for dear life. The transmission cover is held in by nothing. The seat is almost presentable other than that nose hole right there. There's the factory color was that light kind of baby blue. It's got an aftermarket dash pad that's in presentable shape. It's missing the window crank over there as well. But it is a factory short bed 4-wheel drive. It's got the earlier exposed fuel filler necks. It's got the chrome roll bar and the lights. He says that they need a little wiring hooked up to make them work. And they got a fuel cell in the bed for the LS. It did come with a fuel gauge, but there isn't one hooked up. It's got an inline Walbro pump mounted on the frame rail, I guess. Tailgate's kind of presentable. Got a chrome aftermarket drop bumper. Bedside's got some mud in it. It does have the gas cap over on this side. Oh, it's got the indents. The other side must have been added. Hey, the fuel tank is in there. Again, coilovers on the rear. A little mud in the back of the cab. A little whammy there. Some mud in this door. I think these are later mirrors as well. Yeah, the hood was green, the cab was blue, this fender was a different blue. It's got an identity crisis. But it's got an LS. There she is. It's a drive-by cable, so like a 99 to 02 Chevy truck engine. It's got a cold air intake adapter and then the factory air filter. I don't hate it. It's got a factory overflow. He's got like a 05 and newer radiator with the built-in electric fans and all the proper wiring for that. I don't know if I love the way that it's mounted, but it's pretty robust, and it's Caterpillar yellow, so ain't going nowhere.
He's going nowhere. Where you going? Nowhere.
The wiring's actually pretty clean. He's got everything for the 4L60E wiring tucked up underneath the firewall there. Yeah, power steering's hooked up. It's got power brakes. It's got long tube headers on it. It's got mufflers. It sounds all right, but it dumps at the rear end, so I like tailpipes, so that's one thing we could improve as well. But yeah, as far as the LS swap goes, she's pretty clean. But the big thing is when you put it in gear, sometimes it takes 30 seconds before it moves. So something's not making the transmission work. And I think it's the pump. The pump's not getting driven. I don't know what's going on. Let's put this thing on the lift and see if we can figure it out. Oh yeah, and you don't need any keys. You gotta love an LS. there was only a slight delay in putting it in gear and getting it to move. So I don't know, maybe it's just low on fluid. Let's check that first, because I know if you got low fluid, sometimes it takes a while for it to shift into gear, whether it be reverse or forward. Kind of sounds a little low on the power steering fluid as well. Can't imagine it has anything to do with the leak from the sector. Well, it's on the stick. Maybe it's just a noisy power steering pump. Let me go get my step stool to check that transmission dipstick. I'm having flashbacks of working on a four-wheel drive 56 Pontiac with all this going up and down the steps. See, this is why we don't do lifted vehicles. Real hard to work on. Well, it's right up to the full mark, but this is like the rustiest dipstick that Jimmy has ever seen. Hopefully there's no rust inside of said transmission. Why does every LS swap have to have red spark plug wires? Let's get a look at the bottom of this thing and then check out that transmission, torque converter, engine mating issue, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if they all came with this, but it's got a factory sway bar. Looks like they put an aftermarket transmission cooler on there. Something going on there. I don't know. Looks super great with hose clamps holding the lines together. Just fittings hanging out. Should be a Dana 44 front. There it is. 4.4. With the lift, this arm should be level, so there should be a little bit of a drop steering arm on there. Of course, there is not, so probably doesn't drive that great. I haven't driven it much. I didn't drive it home. Judging by the spot on the floor, we got an oil leak. Kind of looks like it's running from the top, maybe. Maybe it's around the pan or the rear main seal. We'll have to dig into that. Looks like they bought some aftermarket adapter plates to bolt into the factory clamshell mounts. That's an excellent way to mount your LS in a small block Chevy application. Well, I'm guessing this is the oxygen sensor wire. Yeah, you don't want to lay that connector right on top of the exhaust. Looks like she's been touching the exhaust up here as well, so we're going to want to tie that up. This might not show up on the camera, but here's the bolt. And way up here is the center of the spring eye. So I don't know what's, oh, the spring is right on the bottom of the frame rail. Oh yeah, the center of this bolt should be lined up with the center of this eye. So I don't even know if this bolt's doing much anymore, but we need a new bolt and we need some new bushings in the spring eye up here. The driver's side is better, there's some room there, but you can definitely tell that that bolt is not in the center of that spring eye. Yeah, we definitely got some leakage action going on down here. The drive shaft's all shiny. The transmission's all shiny and covered with oils. Ooh, it's even got V-bands. Nothing but the finest headers eBay has to offer. It does look like they put some washers in between the flex plate and the torque converter, but maybe they don't have it shimmed out far enough. It also appears that they've got an adapter going from the back of the crankshaft to the torque converter, which is the right way to do it, so I'm told. I've only ever done this once, bolting one to a Turbo 350. Personally, I like using the 4L60E or the 4L80E in overdrive. Since you already got the computer or the ECU and the wire harness to run it, you might as well use it. But it's a little bit different in a four-wheel drive application because then you got to find the correct transfer case so that it drops out the right side on the diff, and then you got to have your speedo controls. So you got to have an electronic speedo in your transfer case, so it's a little bit difficult to use the old 203 or the 205. Speaking of the 203, she's leaking as well. Looks like that needs a pinion seal. It does have the dual tanks on each side, yet I assume that they would have taken them out of there. These look like the 16-gallon versions, not the 20-gallon versions that we got in the old Cowboy Cadillac. Looks like we got a slight leak coming out of our speedo gear. Also, that's not working, so we should check to see if it's screwed up in the gear, or if it's a speedo head, or the cable, or it's just not hooked up. You tell this is a 203 because it's got this big spacer here between the transmission and the transfer case. That's the gear reduction or whatever. So this is a 203. Also looks like they didn't put all the hardware in the transmission/transfer case mount, so we should probably do something about that. And now also looks like we got a slight collision going on there with the exhaust. That's probably not so good. Speaking of exhaust, I don't know what that wire is for. Or that must be some fuel lines that's kind of hanging on for dear life. But looks like we got some Thrush welded mufflers. And like I said, dumps right at the diff. I like tailpipes. Ooh, those are some nice mounts and some nice welds. Yeah, that's right. If you can't weld good, weld a lot. Oh my, that might be part of the vibration. Is that bad of a U-joint, or is it the wrong U-joint? Oh, it's not in the right spot. Let's take it out of gear, but it's not behind that little retainer there, so we gotta drop it down. Maybe it is. I don't know. It's also a little sloppy in the splines there, which is pretty common. It's also got a few dents. I don't know if the camera will show that, but that doesn't help with vibrations. And then looks like somebody welded a weight on there. That doesn't look factory. That one's sloppy as well. So we need some U-joints. How's the front? A little bit of slop there. Not bad. A little bit of play in that constant velocity joint. Nothing too crazy though. Looks like the pinion seal's weeping, so we could probably put one of them in. There's the lift blocks they put in there. They're at least wedges, so hopefully that gives us the proper pinion angle. He did say he put new rear brakes in it. There's our inline Walbro pump and a filter before it. Took the old Achilles Desert Hawk white letters and put them on the inside, so I can approve of that. Looks like we can put a new rear brake hose on the to-do list as well. And we should probably not use a Bluetooth breather for the rear diff. I'm guessing that's supposed to be connected right there. Which also looks plugged up and is maybe why we need a pinion seal. With the old 12-bolt rear diff in it. Alright, let's take those torque converter bolts loose and see how much play we got. How far we got to move the torque converter back, or if we can, or if that even makes a difference. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take all these torque converter bolts all the way out, and then we're going to go ahead and try to move that thing back and forth. And by that thing, I mean the torque converter, to see if it's fully engaged in the pump. It sure looks like it is, but something that's easy enough to check. We'll go ahead and set the starter out of the way so we can get this inspection cover out. That way we can take the bolts out with a ratchet and impact. So much more room for activities.
So much aerobics in here. So many activities.
And it wouldn't be a Mortske project if we didn't have to take the starter out. Oh yeah, 1/2-inch lock washer, a grade 8 coarse thread bolt that's been cut down, and then a regular washer that's also way bigger than 3/8. Not what you want to see, I guess, but we'll keep at it and see what we can figure out. I'm not sure that this is the issue. Maybe it's a bad torque converter? Alright, I haven't touched anything. Let's see if it slides back at all. I don't think it's going to move back much. Nope. I don't think it's an engagement issue. It does look like it's a 4L80E flex plate that they used and they modified similar to what we did on the old 56 Pontiac. Professional and drill them out? Nah, we used the reamer because there wasn't much there to drill. You guys knew that. Check this out. All our bolts fit. Well, that's not the root cause. All right, since we didn't find anything there, here's what I'm thinking. When you put it in gear, if you rev it up, it'll go into gear faster. It kind of bangs into gear like a stall converter. And obviously there's a big delay when you put it in gear sometimes. So I think that there's an issue with the torque converter. So I just happen to have a bunch of mystery random torque converters laying around. And also we got to take the rear drive shaft off anyway because something's going on there and we got to replace a couple U-joints and it's not in place or something like that. So we got the rear drive shaft off and we already got the torque converter bolted. Pretty much all we got to do is the tranny cooler lines, which they could use some rework. The shifter, which I see that could use some rework. The transfer case, front drive shaft. We don't even have to take the transfer case loose, but we got to take the shifter loose for the transfer case. The cross member for the transmission and transfer case, which is missing one of the 4 bolts, and the speedo cable, which we need to figure out what's going on there. So yeah, we might as well just drop this transmission and transfer case, throw a random mystery torque converter that I got laying around in it, and see what happens. Here we go. Not to mention, we should do a pinion seal on the rear drive shaft, which means pulling that off. And then we should also do some output seals on the transfer case. So we may as well just start ripping stuff apart. I would say she was definitely due for a new U-joint. Well, there's our problem there. The inside of the cable is all bound up, so we're gonna get one of those coming. This is likely the problem with the Speedo. Oh. Yeah, that's the guts of the Speedo cable. It's not good for business. I'm gonna go see if we got some U-joints. Hopefully it's a 369, which we got a pile of, and we'll take it over to our in-house Driveshaft rebuild service, aka Mojo, and then we'll go ahead and take the front one off as well. Let's see if a new 369 joint fits in here well, or if we got issues with our yoke. Yep, our yoke, sure enough, it's been run loose at one time or another, so this can slide back and forth. So we need to find a different yoke. Great. We could probably spot weld it in there, put a shim if we really had to, but we'll see what we can round up. But at least we got the right U-joints on hand. You want to take a break from the Mopar and your second favorite thing in the world, putting in universal joints after turning brake drums?
Can do that.
It's a Chevrolet, so you should be able to figure it out.
Thanks.
How did your custom-made brake cable go? Oh, nobody's gonna know at Barrett Jackson. Just like the factory did.
It is like that.
So over here, a little bit of play in the spider gears, but the reason that this pinion seal is probably out is because that is supposed to be the breather, so it was venting through the pinion seal. So we gotta get that fixed up. Let's go ahead and take that apart. That way, if I don't have that seal, we can get one coming. Because it looks like there's a couple different options. There's an 8 3/4 and an 8.5 inch ring gear. So I'm guessing a 10 bolt and a 12 bolt, but I don't know. We're gonna find out. But that hose definitely was not breathing. And your rear end's gotta breathe. You know? Gotta let them gases out. Expansion and contraction and whatnot. Guessed it right on the first shot. What is it, inch and 3/16? Inch and an eighth. Pull the nut off real quick. Smack her loose with a hammer and make sure to put a pan underneath to catch the oil that drips out. Or you can use a puller if you want. Yeah, see, it shouldn't really be leaking by there. It's not all grooved up. Take our punch and knock it out of there. There she blows. No oil running out yet. And of course the seal I got is not the right one, so we're gonna have to go by dimensions and try to figure out what we gotta get. Of course didn't have the right seal for the pinion on the back, but look at that guy. That was not sitting in the right place. That cup should be sitting flush and on the back side of that little tab, so yeah. Anyway, let's get that drive shaft out too. Dipstick's out. We almost got it out of there. I'm gonna go ahead and let that drip for a bit, and then we'll come back and hopefully get it all the way out of there and throw it on a whole bunch of floor dry. So close. You want to know reason 11,278 why I hate headers? Can't get the transmission out because the bell housing hits the headers on both sides. That's pretty nifty.
Not.
All right, she's out of there. This must be the adapter that he got to get her to slide in the back of the old crankshaft. We're gonna give her a washing, I think, while we got it out here, because I want to reposition it on the transmission jack anyway, because you can see we got a little extra support back here from my step ladder, because I never knew my real ladder. And while we got it out, we should put that seal in that output shaft for the front drive shaft. And we should probably find a new kickdown cable. This was not hooked up, and I didn't do it any favors by not unhooking it from what was holding it. Anyway, that was not hooked up, so we really don't need it. It'd be nice to have though. So, let's see if we can find one of those. Give this a good bath. Well, we got this thing down. So now would be an ideal time to put a rear main seal in it, but it looks like the rear main seal is dry. It looks like it's coming from up there, so should be coming from our oil pressure sensor up there, or maybe the valve cover gaskets, either way. Place those from the top. Rear main seals aren't super common for these to leak, so we're just gonna leave it. This does look like it's the correct 4L whatever. It's gonna work for a flex plate, but yeah, it looks like it's got the shorter snout, so we need that longer adapter off of that torque converter to put on our new one. Should be able to throw this thing back together. Also notice it's got these bad boys on the back of the head to tell if you've ever overheated it. So I wonder if this motor isn't rebuilt. Looks like heattabs.com. But maybe it's just a junkyard motor and the junkyard puts those on there when they sell them to you. Either way, I don't believe they're factory. Here is our new torque converter, aka the mystery torque converter, but looks like it was properly sealed when somebody put it away. But we got to get this sleeve, bushing, adapter, whatever you want to call it, off of that torque converter first before we can put it on that one. So let's grab the puller and see what happens. Wish us luck. Unless we can just pry it off with 2 bars, that would be way too easy. Nope, she's on there good. Hopefully we don't have to get heat involved. Here goes nothing. Yes! Great success.
Great success.
You can tell DD Speed Shop has been here by the blue silicone.
Ugh, honestly, it's like embarrassing what happened here, but...
And then it's not from North Dakota, because that is, I don't know, like concrete, red, dirtish stuff. So that must be Utah dirt. Anyway, looks like this thing's been painted, so I'm guessing it's been gone through. This was a 4-speed pickup, so it's not the original transmission. I didn't have a kickdown cable, so we just got a kind of a plug going on in there. We got to make bracketry to make the kickdown work. I'm going to go ahead and put a 6712 NA seal in here, and then we'll throw our torque converter on it. Hopefully be ready to put it back in once we put that seal in. I like to replace these input shaft or torque converter seals because, as you can tell, you got to pull the transmission out to replace it. So now is the time to do it. Good old National 6712 NA, made in the good old US of A. These things are kind of tricky to install because you got this input shaft in the way. I should make a piece of tubing to pound them in with, but I don't. Oh yeah, that one went in real nice.
Really nice.
Well, there's the spring that's supposed to go inside of the seal, so that's probably not good for business. Yeah. Also, that is not either. The old yoke is pretty grooved up. Need a speedy sleeve for that. I bet we don't have one. Let's get the old seal out of here. See what we can find. Better yet, let's see if we can see a part number on it before we ruin it. I don't see anything. F890. That don't sound like a seal number to me. Let's take some dimensions and see what we can find. Well, I got the National 710005 seal on hand, but I don't have the 99-174 Speedy sleeve, so we'll get that tomorrow. We'll just get her together for now, and we'll pull it apart, put the Speedy sleeve on when we get that. I don't even think I'm going to tighten the bolts. Just slide her together for now. Let's go ahead and pound this sleeve on our new-to-us torque converter. Ooh, that's a snug fit. Maybe we should get a block of wood. Hopefully this keeps us from marring up this surface so that it'll want to slide in the back of our crankshaft. Probably want it on there straight too. Weird. Who'd have thought? Definitely didn't get it on there straight. Son of a biscuit. Ruh-roh, Reggie.
Ruh-roh.
Now what? Pull it back off there and start over again? Nah, just keep beating on it. Cheese and rice. There. Just needed a little metal on metal action. Now I'd be really disappointed if we got this all together and the rear main seal leaked. And I do have a kit to replace the rear main seal, so I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pop the flex plate off, And then there's this cool little cover that I think's got some bolts right here and here that hold that on there, and then we take that off, and then we put a new seal in that, and then a seal between that and the block. Bada bing, a bada boom. Because I hate oil leaks, as you can tell by all the seals we're putting in this week. Also of note, these holes go all the way through the crankshaft for these flex plate bolts, so you're going to want to put some sealant on there so that the oil doesn't leak past these, because we love oil leaks. There it is, one piece rear main seal. That's why these things usually never leak. You'd see it leaking, well, probably right there, the lowest point if it was leaking, but it does not look like it is. And there's a seal that goes around this perimeter. That could be leaking, but judging by how wet it is way up top here, this is not leaking. But anyway, we're gonna put it in because I got it. Guessing there's also oil behind that, judging by the way it's running out. There we go. Just like so. I'm just gonna stare and admire at this engineering marvel for a little bit here. Okay, back to work. So we got the BS 40640 Velcro kit here. This should come with everything we need. It's even got this cool little insert that holds the shape for this seal. Ooh, this is a national seal marked outside, so I'm guessing that's been replaced once already. Here's the seal that goes around it. This fits everything from the 4.8, 5.3, 5.7, 6.0, 6.2, and a 7 liter. I have no idea what a 7 liter LS is, but now I need one. I don't even think you need to take this off to get this seal out. I think that's what these little notches are for. You just pop her out of there. I'll let you know. Let's try our Mortske repair pry using the right tool pry bar. Get yours at mortske.com. Something with a little bit more bite. There we go. That is in there. It's moving. Oh. Yeah. Probably should have cleaned this part all up, but you know, we ain't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So which side is the outside? Is this marked? Does it matter? Well, the numbers were in on the outside of that one, so we're gonna assume that the numbers should be on the outside of this one. All right, put numbers on the outside, final answer. Ooh, I don't like how that just kind of pressed straight in. Hopefully it's good enough. Now we just gotta take this old seal off the back side, hit her with our super scraper. Throw this bad boy on there, which only goes one way, 50-50-90 rule. We had it the wrong way. There you go. Ready to put it all back together. Everything's back together back here. 74 foot-pounds on these. I think these are something 108 inch-pounds, and these are 18 foot-pounds. I guess there's an installation tool. Sounds like nobody uses it. And then I guess I was supposed to leave that plastic sleeve in there until I pushed it on. But anyway, it's gonna leak for sure now. So let's go ahead and throw transmission up in here. We're getting her buttoned up. Let me show you a few things that I ran across in the install process. So we got 4 bolts in here holding the transmission crossmember in place. If you remember before, we only had 3, and one of them was 3/8. They should be 7/16. And they also, you gotta have that washer in there, or a bushing spacer per se, so you get your correct clamp load on there. Bolt stretch, you gotta have that bushing in there for bolt stretch. So anyway, I had to ream the holes out to get those in there. That's why you just had a 3/8 and 1 in there, I suppose. But anyway, we got that in there. And also, we got 2 bolts on this side instead of 1 in there, 7/16 instead of 3/8. So that's better than it was. Next to be addressed is a shifter rod. Right about there, there should be a bushing and a spring. When it pokes through the transmission right there, there should be a washer and a clip. And they just had a cotter key and no spring or bushing on the other end. So we got our bushing. That rides in that tapered surface. We also got our spring that pushes that bushing into that tapered surface. And we got our washer that goes on the other end, and the correct style hairpin or clip to put her in place. So shift linkage is going to be correct again instead of just flopping around loosely. This spring and this bushing work together to hold it in place so it doesn't flop around and also doesn't wear out the pin in the slot that it rides in, because it rides on that bushing, which is held into the correct mating surface because of the spring. use the right stuff. Tight quarters in there, so I can't really show you, but I got the bushing and the spring in place. And we got the correct clip and washer in place as well. Now to bolt up the torque converter, as you can see, it slides forward and backwards a little bit. I don't think it's enough to be worried about, but I am going to put some spacers in there. That's the whole point of a flex plate, is the flex, right? So you should ideally have machine spacers so that it runs true, but we'll just grab some washers and measure them to make sure they're close to the same thickness. And put actual torque converter bolts in there. Hopefully the stock 350 ones are long enough and get that snugged up. I usually use 3/8, I think they're grade 8 fine thread, and then they also got a flange on them. But yeah, I don't think it's an issue with the torque converter being engaged, so we should be good there. Also tied up the oxygen sensor wiring while we were underneath here. Just kidding, went my stash, and these are definitely grade 5 coarse thread 3/8 bolts. And the nut does not have a flange, but the bolt has a flange, so at least I was right on that part. I swear I've seen them as fine thread before, though. Our new rear seal showed up, so let's go ahead and install that so we can install our drive shaft. No groove action going on here, so we don't have to worry about putting a speedy sleeve on that yoke. Speaking of drive shafts, got these things all greased up. We gotta put a Zerk in that slider right there. And then also, there's a little, you get a pin adapter or point adapter, I don't know what they call them. We gotta grease that guy that's inside of there so we can put this all back together. And it's also missing the Zerk right there. So we're gonna go ahead and doctor these up a bit, throw them back together. Drive shaft is in, let me show you that gap in that yoke up there. I cranked her down so I can't slide around, but ideally we would find a new yoke for that, because that little tab right there is worn down because it's been run loose. I don't know that I've seen that before, but I have seen guys use the wrong U-joints and put washers and spacers and stuff in there. But we're not going to do that. I just clamped them down real tight. Oh yeah, shout out to Mojo for putting our new 369 U-joints in there. Now we're going to put a new breather hose on here. First I'm going to run a drill bit in there to make sure that that's cleaned out. And then we're going to take what's left of the hose off here. Do the same thing with that one on the frame rail. Reuse our clamp. Reuse our breather on the end there. I don't know what they call that, the fitting. And we'll be good to go. And hopefully this pinion seal will last significantly longer than this one. What size drill bit do we need? Oh, look at that. It's freaking plugged up right to the top. Yummy.
Yummy!
So, with expansion and contraction, fluid's gotta go somewhere, or the air, and if you don't have this cleaned out, it's going to push fluid out. The seal's going to take the path of least resistance, so it's either going to go out the pinion seal or the axle seals. That's why you always want to clean these out and make sure that they're connected. Go ahead and slip some new 5/16 rubber hose on. Or is it 3/8? No, 5/16 seems like it's going to work. Reuse our constant tension clamp. Take what remains of the top half off here. Got our new hose the length. Reuse our breather. You always want to make sure that these things spin. That means they're breathing. If they're stuck, they're probably not breathing. There you go, one breather overhaul complete. Hopefully that saves me or the next owner from having to put some more seals in this differential. Don't forget to clean out and replace the breather on your front diff. And the one on your transfer case as well. And there's one on the transmission you should clean out while you're up there. But the transmission one's just kind of a metal line that sticks out the side, and there's no hose on it. Your diffs and your transfer case and all of the seals will thank you. Also, your driveway won't be marked up with oil spots, so your significant other and your neighbors will appreciate it as well. Let's go ahead and put our 99 174 Speedy sleeve on. It's from Napa. You can tell it's from Napa because it says Napa on there. Great branding. What's the country of origin? Let's see. It's a Scheffler brand. Well, they don't even want to tell you. See part number label for country of origin. Yeah, they ain't gonna tell you. This gives you this new little ring that goes on there that gives you a nice new sealing surface. And they give you this little cup to whack it on there with. There you go, just like so. New seal mating surface without having to go to the machine shop. We got our double cardan joint grease with our little, I don't know, needle greaser. Now we got to find some grease zerks from our grease zerk fitting collection to add to the missing ones for the slider, and then that end universal joint. Not only will this allow us to grease this joint in the future, it'll also keep debris out of there. And you don't want debris in your parts that are supposed to be greased. Dirt does not make a very good lubricant. Is that getting tighter or loose? Oh, are we gonna have to tap it? That's why there's no zerk in there. Yeah, I think we got some threads. Had to get my extractor set out to get what was left of that grease zerk out of that hole. Let's go ahead and grease this up before we put it back together. I'm gonna take this zerk back out of there. I feel like there's a reason it was busted, because it was making contact. We're gonna use one of these flush mount ones that you need the needle greaser to grease. Also, probably the last time this universal joint sees grease. Even if it doesn't ever get greased again, this will keep debris from getting in there. You know, when we're out doing 4x4 mud bog and stuff. Since we know this has been leaking, and we also let some out when we replace the seal, let's go ahead and top off the diffs and the transfer case. Because our new seals are no good to our differentials and our transfer case if they have zero oil left in them. On a plus note, if you don't have oil in it, it can't leak. That's how you know when it's time to add. Well, that one was full. Instead of a 3/8 socket, the old transfer case just uses a 9/16 wrench on this square plug. This one for sure has got to be low.
One eternity later.
Good grief, how much does this thing hold? Same thing on the front diff, except it's not a 9/16, it's a 5/8 for our square plug. Or just round it off with a Swedish nut lathe. Oh man, this one's leaking, so somebody really reefed on it. Just try and seal it up. Good grief, we're gonna have to get the impact out? Wowza. I haven't had that happen in a while. There we go. It is leaking around this plug, so we might want to put some pipe tape on it or get the right plug. Hopefully that seals up now. There we go. Got all the fluids topped off, at least under here anyway. Well, I rounded up a speedo cable here that hopefully is going to work. So let's get this old one out of there, fish the new one in there. While we're at it, let's get rid of all this old copper plumbing for the dual fuel tanks while we're at it. Create some real estate. Although we're going to lose a spot to zip tie things to, unfortunately. Oh yeah, and check this fuel line out. Not for fuel injection systems. Good thing LS's don't have to be fuel injected. I mean, this one's clearly got a carburetor on it. I'm gonna be able to sell this copper and buy so much meth.
I'm on meth.
I'm on meth.
I'm on meth.
Speedo cable's hooked up to the speedometer head, but it won't go in here. I guess when I hooked it up earlier, it just pushed the cable out on the other end, but now we can't get it out of there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this speedo gear out, and we'll see what's going on, and maybe rob one out of the other LS swap rig, because the 56 Pontiac does not need a speedometer. So here's what we spun out of there. Of course, oil run out because there's oil there, and we just topped it off. But this comes apart. There's no seal in there. Oh, maybe there's an O-ring inside there. Well, there's a groove for an O-ring. Does not look like it's present, but it just seals on that surface with an O-ring, I guess. And somebody's wallered this out and put some JB Weld or something inside of there. So let's go steal the one out of that 56 Pontiac. Hopefully it's in better shape. On the plus side, it's pretty easy to take out of there. Just put a socket on there, spin it out, all pops out. Your transfer case drives this gear, that spins your speedometer. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Nothing can ever be easy. So first thing I saw was this Stewart Warner speedometer adapter. Usually these are gear reduction style setup. Anyway, I had to get this out of the way to get that out of there. When I took this off, I saw this bad boy on there. So this is some type of adapter that goes from a square spline to single spline, I guess. I don't know. It's got one notch there. So anyway, that is what you need to run the old Stewart Warner here. But then I went and slid this in there, And it grabs when you go like that, but if you slide it all the way in, it spins. So hopefully it's just this piece that's rounded off. And it's not internal to this, because this was not driving this because this was rounded out. So the saga continues, and that might have been why mine was glued together, because something got rounded off. But anyway, we're gonna slide this in there and try it, and we'll save this for a rainy day project. Well, it's all reassembled. Hopefully it works when we're done. Brakes are kind of important, and this rear brake hose is about ready to leave the chat, so let's go ahead and throw some cheap insurance at this thing and put a new one on here. He said he put new wheel cylinders in it, so I don't know why he wouldn't do this, because anything rubber is usually what's going to let loose on you. And this brake hose looks like it's the next thing to go. Also, your worthless information of the day, two-wheel drive brake hoses are the same as a four-wheel drive. Oh, of course those don't want to come loose. Fun times. Let's get the locking pliers out. There we go. Well, it doesn't want to turn very bad. Oh, for cheese and rice. Oh, there we go. 2 down, 1 to go. By hooking up the new brake hose first, we might actually self-bleed this system, or gravity bleed it. We don't have to pump brakes, crack bleeders, so let's hope we get lucky. There we go. One new brake hose. Way safer. Next on the list here, this thing rides freaking terrible. I don't think it's the shocks, but it can't be helping. These coilovers, not really my jam. They look kind of cool if you're into that stuff. But anyway, we got some Skyjack Hydro 7000s. Why? Because they were the cheapest thing on Amazon and they showed up in 2 days. So let's go ahead and throw these on there. These are for a 2.5 to 4 inch lift. This thing's got a 2-inch lift. So wish us luck. And by cheapest on Amazon, I mean these things were right about $200 for a set of 4, so $50 a piece, I think. And they're family owned since 1974. They're out of West Monroe, Louisiana, and they're white with red boots on it, so should look real good. Go check them out, skyjacker.com. Not a paid promotion. Professional grade, lifetime warranty. These things are so terrible. It's like some assembly required on these bad boys. The bigger ones are for the rear, clearly, because, you know, hauling big loads on a four-wheel drive. You gotta put that sweet rubber boot on it, and I was just bashing the old red zip ties. They come with red zip ties. New bolts and red bushings. Oh yeah, nothing but the finest from Skyjacker. I don't know that I've ever bought new shocks where you had to put the bushings in them. I don't know if I'm excited about that or not. I guess we can handle it. Doesn't even look like you gotta press them in with anything other than your bare hands. Okay, maybe a hammer. Probably should be using a vise. Turns out you definitely don't want to put that bushing in there because the bolt doesn't fit through it. Whoops. But does it fit through the bushing? Oh yeah, perfect. I guess we'll go ahead and take that metal sleeve out of there. Made in Mexico, and it's pointing up towards the top, so I'm gonna put this up. Well, just kidding, it fits through that bushing. What the French is going on here? Turns out I'm an idiot, but you guys knew that. This bushing is smaller inside diameter, and this bushing is larger inside diameter, which leaves room for that metal sleeve to go in there, so don't screw up like I did. Well, that's where the decals are supposed to go. You put them on the body of the shock. Huh. we definitely won't be doing that. Now, we gotta put this guy on there, I think. Probably. Come on, go to your home.
Why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Oh, for cheese and rice. Stay tuned while I wrestle this shock 5 skin for an hour.
3 days later.
Oh, that was a real treat. Now for the old finishing touch, the Red Rocket zip tie. I really hope these things fit. Here goes nothing. It should be plenty long. Oh, of course that didn't stay up there. I guess we're gonna need another red zip tie. Go to your home. Of course it's going to be too long because it's for a 2.5 to 4 inch lift, and we're at a 2-inch lift, so it should definitely not bottom out in the fully drooped, but it might bottom out when this thing is fully, you know, landing after a sweet jump that we take it off in the old Baja 1000. I bet Skyjacker sponsored some really cool trucks in the old Baja 1000. There we go. One down, other than putting a zip tie up there or something. One more on the rear, should be the same process, and then we go to the fronts. See how that dropped down? These shocks are what I would call too short. Tech tip of the day, make sure to put the 5 skin on before you put this offset bushing in. Otherwise, you gotta take the offset bushing back out. Don't ask me how I know. There you go, hopefully that makes a shocking difference in ride quality. Bad news. Got her all back together, got her running, topped off with transmission fluid, and transmission still does the same thing. So it must be something in the pump where the pump's not building enough pressure right away, like there's a seal out or it's leaking, but it doesn't really affect the drivability other than it's a little bit slow going into gear. So I thought that would be a torque converter issue, because if you rev it up, it goes into gear quicker. So obviously if you spin the pump faster. So anyway, if you know what it is, comment down below. Hit us up, mortskerepair@gmail.com, or message me on Instagram or Facebook, whatever. If it's something we can fix. Otherwise, in my opinion, it's got to go to a transmission professional, because I don't know much about automatics. Also, we got this topside creeper here, not a paid promotion, and I got down in the back side of the engine, and sure enough, there's an adapter that goes in the back for an LS oil pressure sender, and it's leaking right there, and it's also got that crappy white line hose on there, or line. You should have a copper line, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to fix that. And I can't show you, because I can't even see what I'm doing in there, much less get in there with my hands to try and remove a fitting or tighten a fitting. But anyway, that leak is bad, so if nothing else, we're gonna plug it. Got the old line disconnected off the engine, and sure enough, it's one of them plastic lines and kits. But anyway, I like using these Equus, it looks like it's part number 9901, and it comes with a bunch of 1/8 inch copper line and all the adapter fittings you should ever need. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this. And tech tip of the day, just hook this up to your stock GM Squarebody gauges. They're not electronic. You just thread this in the back of your gauges there. You might need an adapter that's, I don't know, it's kind of a tapered, weird dealio. And then you don't have to have a silly gauge underneath the dash and drill a bunch of holes. So, and you can see it, it's right up here, instead of over here, down here, up there. It looks stock, and that's what we like. It looks stock, and better yet, we like no leaks. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this leak-free. We've got a new revelation on LS swaps. So this is a standard oil pressure sensor, what you call it, but they just busted out the top part and then tapped it out for an 1/8 inch pipe thread, which I think they would have been okay with, but they tapped it too far. So when you go ahead and try to tighten this adapter fitting into a regular pressure sensor, it never gets tight enough to seal up. So we're just gonna get another pressure sensor and just jam it in there for now, basically as a plug. That's how we can get the right adapter so that this doesn't leak anymore. So that's interesting. Yeah, this is just a regular off-the-shelf 9906 GM oil pressure sender, and they knocked the top off and pulled all the guts out and then tapped her out to 1/8 inch pipe thread. And like I said, I think they'd have been fine, but they just ran the pipe tap in there too far. That's a new one. I would not recommend doing this. I'd just buy the right one for, they're like 10 or 20 bucks on Amazon, because they're a real fun sucker to replace because there's not much room, and then you gotta have a special socket. Anyway, I'm gonna go steal one off of one of my parts engines. And we're not gonna have an oil pressure gauge, but it's an LS. Oil pressure, it's optional. There you go. That's a new one, kids. These LS swaps never cease to amaze me. I'm back, it's me again. Remember this adapter thing? Adapter. Well, this is what would have been in there from the factory. It looks like a 3-wire sender. Anyway, this one's super rusty. Not rusty, it's corroded because it's aluminum. And they got I don't know, compression fitting, is that what that's called? No, it's got a crush washer on there. So it's way better than pipe thread. Oh, they drilled her way out. I think that's what happened, is they drilled it out too far. And anyway, this is what it should look like. And these things seal up real well. Whatever this is, not real well. So we're gonna use this as a plug because the wires aren't required to keep the oil in the engine. So anyway, and you don't need to put pipe dope on these things. It looks like there was some type of thread sealant on there, but it wasn't a thread sealant, more as a thread locker. So yeah, you don't need thread sealant because that's what the washer's for on the top. That seals it up, the crush washer. Anyway, now you know what I'm dealing with. People, don't do silly things. This one is slightly different, but it should work. It's gonna work. We're gonna see if it's gonna work. All right. You don't want to see my backside while I'm trying to put this in there. I can't show you what I'm doing, so I'll see you in a minute after I get this in. Next on the list, we're gonna do some fuel things. So we're gonna get rid of that fuel cell in the bed, and this is for 87 short bed, so this is set up for fuel injection. The only thing is, we gotta swap in a high pressure pump for the standard low pressure pump, I guess I call it. So we're gonna put one of these Chemsos in there, and then we're gonna modify the ends of these. We're gonna cut them off, and here's these adapters. They got a compression style fitting. You clamp onto there, and that should go to a nylon fuel line. Those things came in this nylon fuel repair kit, part number 800-300 by Dorman. And then we're gonna use nylon fuel line, and then a couple of these clippy-doos to hook it to the engine, and we'll get rid of that terrible non-high pressure fuel injection fuel hose that's on there. We'll get a fuel gauge, we'll get a new fuel tank, and we'll get a nice quiet in-tank pump with mostly replacement stuff. The only thing I don't like about this is if you ever got to put a whole new sending unit in, you're going to have to get a new compression fitting and cut these off. But I don't have a good way to attach to these. You can't really put that nylon on there. We want to get rid of the old low pressure hose, so we'll figure it out. But anyway, I think these things are like, you know, under 200 bucks shipped. And this is another 50 bucks, and then we're gonna have a few bucks in fittings and hoses, but it'll be good line. We'll get a fuel gauge, we'll get some bed space, we'll get a quieter pump, and it's mostly off-the-shelf components. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, here we go. We're ready to drop this thing in there. All we did was took a stock sending unit. We put a high pressure pump in there. We had to change the connectors, so we put some heat shrink solder connectors on that. And then I cut off the barbs on the return, which is a 5/16, and the pressure, which is a 3/8. And I put these little adapters from Dorman to go from basically a barb, but it's the correct barb for the nylon hose. And then it's got this compression fitting on the other end. The reason that I really like this, other than the fact that this nylon, I like it, it's easy to route, it's affordable, it's what the factory does on 9906 GMs, which is what I base a lot of these swaps off of. And also, this way, if this unit ever goes bad and I gotta buy a new one, all I have to do is modify this one in the same manner. So we would need a couple of butt splices for the inside stuff for the pump or the new pump. And you just cut off the barb on the end. You go get a couple of these ferrules. You cut these off, you get some new ferrules. You can get these at the hardware store anywhere. You go ahead and slide your nut on there, your new ferrule, clamp it in place, and you're back on the road. You should be able to fix this anywhere in the United States. It's got a hardware store that's got ferrules, provided you can find a parts store that's got a new sending unit and or a pump. There you go. I like to keep it simple. Stock, stuff you can find. That's what I don't like about the inline pumps, those high pressure inline pumps. they're hard to find at parts stores, and they're noisy. So this should be quiet. Should be pretty much all factory stuff other than this fitting, which you can completely reuse other than that ferrule is a one-time use only. So let's get this thing lifted up in the air and let's get the old tank out of there and then redo some plumbing. Old tank is out. I even used the nice clamps on there for fuel injection, even though this one wasn't used for fuel injection, I hope. But we got our lines pressed onto our fittings. We got our breather hose on here with a breather on the end, so we'll just have to tie that to the inside of the frame rail. But we got to steal these mounting brackets off of there first, so already sprayed them down with some Croil. We're going to nab those off of there, throw those of that tank. Tanks look the same to me, so hopefully it fits in there. And we'll have some fuel injection here shortly. Obviously we got to hook up our lines, take off our old stuff. And then we just got to unhook our inline pump and run the wiring to this, and then find the wire for our fuel gauge so that we can get a fuel gauge hooked up to our sender. And we'll be good to go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you really get after these nuts, sometimes it'll want to twist the straps, so give them a little heat. Tech tip of the day, a little heat goes a long ways, and you won't have to untwist your straps or snap them off or put a lock-on pliers on and stuff. So get your a little heat goes a long ways, Decal, and others at mortskerepair.com. Be careful now. It's going to be hot. Don't drop it on your nylon fuel. See how this guy looks inside. Pretty good. This thing looks pretty good inside, so we're going to hang on to it. He was running this thing with a carburetor on it at one point, he said, so I don't know how long ago that was. But anyway, we're going to hang on to this in case we need to do another one of these. Don't use these tanks for a fuel injection conversion because they don't have the sump inside the tank. So if you accelerate, which you're going to do a lot with an LS, or brake, it's going to slosh all your fuel back and forth. And once it gets low, it's not going to want to pick up fuel. So get the right tank. We got our brackets back on there with some new hardware. Let's go ahead and slide this thing up into place and then do a little plumbing. Got our fuel tank in place. Got all our fuel hoses safely routed up to here. We got to tie them up a couple spots, but we'll wait to do that until we get them hooked up to the engine. We got our ground hooked up to the frame. Probably should run a ground straight to the battery, but we'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, super straightforward install. Get yourself a 87 fuel tank. When you do your LS swap, swap the pump, and then make yourself some adapters, put this nice nylon line, wire it up, ready to rock. You know, I said straightforward swap. I've never done one of these in a 73 to 80 pickup. I believe the fuel filler neck is a different diameter and verified. This tank has an 1 3/4 fuel filler neck, and the fuel filler hose and the neck on our old tank is 1 3/8. So it's that 3/8 of a difference. So I'm gonna go take an old radiator hose, because we got lots of those, with a nice 90-degree radius, so we're going to go ahead and find one that's obviously 1 3/4. Let's clamp it down real tight on the fuel filler neck. I suppose you could put a fuel filler neck on the side of the pickup from a later pickup. I don't know, because those ones got the door with the side. If we really cared, we could have cut the neck out of the old tank and welded it in the new tank, and then it would have matched up. I think it'd be just fine clamping an 1 3/4 down over 1 3/8, but I don't think we're going to get this old brittle hose to flex 3/8 of an inch over this 1 3/4. You can see it ain't gonna go, and that hose is pretty brittle, so we're gonna go ahead and get rid of that, put a different one on there. We'll get it figured out. If this is the biggest issue we come across, we're doing all right. Oh yeah, that's way better. Even found a used hose, not a flexi hose. You want to keep that correct curvature. You ever had that pump click back on you where you got to fill them real slow? That's because of the silly angle that some of these flatbeds and custom applications got, but this should be good. Also, I don't know if this radiator hose is rated for fuel, but it doesn't really sit in fuel except for when you're filling it. And then if you leave it over full, fill her all the way up, so should be good to go. Way better than that rotten piece of crap. Tech tip of the day for you swap tanks. Oh yeah, never mind that I cut my finger with a knife cutting zip ties. Anyway, fill your fuel cell, and then make sure that's higher than your fuel tank. And then use your not for fuel injection fuel hose, hook it right into your tank without spraying yourself in the face. Fill that sucker up. What a deal. We definitely did not spill any on the floor in this process. Good thing we got floor dry. Alright, I'm gonna let this gravity feed for a bit. I'm gonna crank this sucker over and see if my wiring and plumbing and everything else works out. I'm sure it'll be just fine. No leaks, no wires backwards, fuel gauge is gonna work, all that stuff. We also eliminated a bunch of butt splices and terrible wiring. Got rid of our old oil line and some random red wire in the dash, the old alternator wiring. Here's the rest of the alternator wiring. Got rid of the oil pressure gauge. Got rid of some P-clamps for the fuel pump. Once we get this drained out, we're gonna take the fuel pump and that fuel filter off. That is one thing I need to do. I need to put a fuel filter in line. I like the same, I don't know what they call them, Bundy style, the quick connect. So get one of those off the shelf. I think they're on like, I don't even know what they come on. S10s? Seems like the 99 to 06 GM pickups, they have threaded fittings, and I don't like those. So we'll need 2 more 3/8 ends, and we'll put it after the pump on the pressure side, not on the return side. You don't want too much pressure on the return side. But anyway, yeah, 2 more fittings and a fuel filter, and we'll clamp that to the frame. And it'll be good to go. But I'm not gonna do it right now because I'm lazy, and also I'm lazy. So test this thing out. All right, let's give her a crank, see what happens, see if the fuel pump even runs. We probably don't want to spill any more gas with Mojo over here welding away, narrowing up pallet racking for storing wheels on. Slingshot, engaged.
Slingshot engaged.
I definitely don't hear the fuel pump. So 50-50-90 rule, I'm guessing the purple wire is for the fuel gauge and the gray wire was for the fuel pump. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap those around on our weather pack connector and see what happens. Is it leaking fuel? Duff sniffed it out. He says it ain't leaking fuel. All right, here we go. Let's try this again. See if the fuel pump runs. I don't have much faith in the fuel gauge working, seems how it hasn't has a lens on it in many years. Here we go. Oh, I can hear it running. Cycle it a couple times, get the air out. There's the LS we know and love. Perfect. Doesn't look like we got any fuel running out the bottom. Ah, sure enough, our fuel gauge is not working, but like I said, I'd like to replace this cluster with one that's got a cover, and then also when we get the oil pressure adapter, we'll hook up the oil pressure gauge. Volts should be working. It looked like it was a minute ago. Let's check it. Does it drop when we turn the key off? Yep. When it goes up and when we crank, it should drop. Heck yeah, that's working. Our Speedo, everything is pretty much new other than the head there, so if we swap a different gauge cluster in it, that should work. And also, if we get a stock sender for the water temp and get an adapter, also you need an adapter because it's not pipe thread, it's got that crush washer on there, get the right adapter for that. For the LS, to go to that and then get the right sender. We should have a temp gauge as well, so this thing will be pretty good on gauges if we get those things figured out. So, I mean, we got a voltage gauge, and we might have a speedo, so, you know, 2 out of 6 ain't bad. 1.5 out of 6, we got this. Well, since we ain't got much for gauges, let's get the OBD2 sensor not only mounted in the cab, but let's get it routed through a nice hole in the firewall instead of having it fish through that big ginormous hole that the steering column fishes through, which is where it was. So I got this fish back out. I'm gonna go ahead and pop the pins out of this. Take note of where they go, otherwise you can look on the internet. And then we're gonna push the wires back through, hook up the connector on the inside, screw it to the bottom of the dash, and bada bing, bada boom, we'll have gauges again. This guy had a, I don't know, like a V-peak, E-peak, I don't know. It's got a app for this, and you can hook it up to your phone, keep an eye on your gauges. But I like to just get one of the cheapy, like $30, $40 launch brand OBD2 scanners, and just hook that up, and then I can get my vitals off of that. Mainly temperature. That's all I really care about. But vehicle speed is also, oh, it's not going to be on there in this thing because it's,
Turbo 350. But anyway, hopefully we'll have a speedometer on there. But anyway, we're gonna get this not being pinched with the steering column bracket pulled or pulled. That's all we've been doing this afternoon, Duff, is pinning and unpinning connectors. Guy is a welding machine. I think he closes his eyes when he does it though. At least he's wearing a helmet this time. Well, just kidding. Looky here, we got our OBD2 hooked up, got her mounted under there, out of the way, nice and clean. Tech tip of the day, there's only 4 wires that go in there. There's 2 grounds, I think, and then 1 power, and then 1 for the CAN bus. And I think you can get away with just 3 wires, power, ground, and the CAN bus. Don't let the power touch the ground or ground to the body, because then you'll blow a fuse, and then you get to search through this wire harness to figure out where the 15 amp fuse is that you blew out. So good stuff. All right, so that is checked off. I'm gonna go ahead and find some hardware. We're gonna put the transmission cover in there now. Because as beautiful as that pressure wash transmission is, I don't like the heat and the noise coming from it. So let's go find some 5/16 hardware and put a transmission tunnel cover on. Transmission tunnel is in place. I wish I had a shifter boot, but oh, we could probably use that one that's laying over there. All right, let's round up some self-tappers. Because I'm using self-tappers, you won't even look at me? Come on. I thought you liked Dalton from Pole Barn Garage. Hi! Now that we got that boot installed and we also got a functional actual fuel tank, let's get rid of this fuel cell. So what I'm gonna do, since I'm a one-man band, well, just kidding, Mojo's over there working on the Cowboy Cadillac. I'm gonna clamp some locking pliers, these guys right here, on the hardware up top here, and then go underneath and hit it with the buzz gun, and hopefully this thing spins around and hits the fuel cell, and I get all my hardware off without dying. Let's give that a whirl and see what happens. I couldn't get the locking pliers to lay horizontal on these front ones because the bed was in the way, so I had to tip them up straight, and I don't know if that's going to hold. You want them laying horizontal like that so they really catch against that fuel cell. Here goes nothing. Yes! It's new hardware, that helps. Oh yes, lock washers. That's definitely what kept them from rattling loose. Got them all. You gotta love it when a plan falls together.
I love it when a plan comes together.
All right, let's get this nasty fuel cell out of there. Maybe patch up the holes in the floor. Just kidding, we'll leave those. Let's see if we can get this fuel cell out of there now. Oh! That's a tube full of gas. That's gonna ruin my day. Probably get rid of my athlete's foot though. Oh, I got gas in my eyeballs. Oh! Let's see if we can't get the rest of that fuel out of there. Alright, this might be a bad idea. There we go. There you go, now we got a fuel cell for another project. I couldn't get all the fuel sucked out because it's got like one of those foam pads underneath. Keep it from sloshing, like a sump pad or whatever you call it. Also, I don't get why they got this fuel sender like this, because I'm sure no water likes to pool up right there and run inside the tank. But anyway, Chinese fuel cell things. Also, I don't know that we need Dash 8 AN fittings coming out, you know, because we're making 2,000 horsepower. Well, yeah, every 5.3 makes 2,000 horsepower, isn't it, Duff? He knows that's BS. So, in case you didn't notice when you're taking the fuel cell out, I got a couple of bumpers. Picked these up at an auction sale. I think I got a whole pallet of bumpers for like $11. But anyway, we're gonna put the chrome one on there. We got this painted one and it's got some brackets on it. So let's go ahead and get that front bumper off. It's welded on. And try not to drop sparks in my shoe that is full of gasoline. And yeah, get a bumper on it that's straight with actual brackets. The frame horns are bent. That's why it's welded on. You notice that. So good stuff. Don't fix your stuff right. Don't fix the frame rails. Just weld your bumper on. Crooked at that. So you can see this thing is tipped way back. The bolts also pulled through for the bumper brackets come off the side. It looks like it had the maybe it was a push bar, or maybe it was the bumperettes. But anyway, there should be 3 bolts on each side. 2 there and 1 there. There's no bolts, and you can see where they burn through with the weld here and here. So we got to figure out how to get this thing removed. And you can see the frame rails kind of pushed over here, and that's where The leaf spring's kind of pushed over, so I'm sure that's helping with the alignment. But anyway, we got to get this bumper back on here the right way. And then it should bolt right to the frame rail there. There's brackets there, and there's brackets coming off to the side. But anyway, let's see if we can't get this thing off of there. It's really not a bad bumper other than where that guy blew through there. But it's probably going to be junk when we start cutting that weld, and that weld, and that weld. Yeah, nothing but the finest. Oh, this is good stuff. Come on over here, take a look at this. Got ourselves a little flat strap welded between the bumper and the frame rail. At least that'll be easy to cut out of there. You can see where the frame's been torn, where somebody threw a hook in it. That's always nice. I mean, don't wrap it around the leaf spring or the front axle that's right there. Then we got a couple little booger welds on the inside we got to cut off. Oh yeah, this shouldn't be too bad. Get the torch out, bada bing, bada boom. Some people, they're definitely not the worst welds, but don't weld your bumper on unless you're derbying a car. See if we can't wiggle that weld loose without dropping it on our toes. Ooh, that's hot. Got it. Dropped a few sparks in my foot and it's on fire, but not from those. The old gasoline really soaks into your feet. That's the first time for that. I don't know how well we can show this, but this whole front end is shifted over. Not the whole front end, the frame horns are twisted off to the passenger side. So you can see the leaf spring goes right there, and that frame horn is like, wah, pointed over there. So, how are we gonna get that straightened out? Because yeah, the bad part is the leaf spring clamps to that, so it's, you can see how it's binding that, not the main leaf, but the second leaf is kind of pushed over that way because everything's twisted. And I'm guessing it's just the horns. It's from here going forward. Yeah, you can see the dent in the frame rail right there. Oh yeah, this frame horn is kind of tipped that way too. Great. And of course, our frame rack, aka the rollback, is down because Vortec 454 roller lifters don't like me, so we can't use that to straighten it out. So I don't know what we're gonna do. And that's why they had the bumper welded on. They were just hiding the whole issue here. This isn't a huge issue, but it should be addressed. So how are we gonna get this straight? I'm gonna clean up these welds and torch marks and then yeah, do some thinking. We'll go from there. So I measured our bumper and it's 25 3/4 hole to hole on the center right here. So we're gonna go ahead and drill a piece of metal. Well, we're gonna take a piece of metal with some holes at 25 3/4. And we're gonna tie this together so as we pull that way on either frame rail, it's going to want to pull the other one with it. And that way, we'll keep that same dimension. Because if we pull one frame rail at a time, then this one's not going to want to follow with it. So, I don't know what I'm doing here. Not a frame straightening guy, but anyway, let's get a piece of metal in here, tying these two frame horns together, so that way they stay together. So, even if they're still crooked, our bumper should still bolt out. And for that, I got this seed sign post that the neighbors left out there all winter. So anyway, if you're from the Midwest or an agricultural community, keep an eye open for these because, you know, you can use them for straightening frame horns on your Squarebody. Did I cut it too short? Did I cut it too long? If we get it in there, are we ever going to get it back out? Of course, the holes ain't large enough, so we're going to have to ream them out a bit so we can get some 1/2-inch bolts in there to really hold her together. Here's the plan. Shin's going to guide the forks on the telehandler into the frame rail where it needs to be, right below the steering box. And then we're going to take a chain off of this chain and tie it to the mast. And then we're going to use the old frame straightener come along. And then we're going to take another chain to the back of the pickup, because otherwise if you just pull here, the pickup will just spin in a circle. So, wait. No, it'll go that way. It'll go skirt, skirt. So the chain will keep it from doing donuts.
let's do this. I hate So here's what we got going on here. I got a couple of 2x4s in there to hopefully keep it from squeezing the C-channel and the frame rail down, and then a short chain around that hooked up to our come along, and a short chain back there. And ideally I want to pull it that way, but I think our fender cup is going to get in the way if I tied to that end of the mast. So let's just give her a whirl, see what happens. Maybe it won't take much to bend it into place and the pickup won't slide. See what happens. Alright, I'm going to check it with a tape to see if we're centered from here to the outside of the fender, because that should tell us if the bumper is going to be centered. You want to go a little bit past because it's going to want to spring back. Also, head on over to mortske.com, get your Body by Mortske decal. Conveniently, it's got a 73.4 two-tone Chevy on there, so go check that out. And all the other goodies, t-shirts, sweatshirts, ball caps, banners, magnetic screwdrivers, magnetic can koozies, coolers, you name it, we got it. Head on over to mortske.com. My handle is twisting now. That's how strong I am.
Hercules, Hercules, Hercules.
Yep, that's it. The old handle's getting a little twist to her. We didn't even put a cheater pipe on it. You suck, the dumb Kong. Not for lifting, horizontal pulling. Maximum capacity, 2,000 kilograms. So right now, we're about a ½ inch too far this way, according to my terrible measurements based off this front end that's probably not square. I don't want to loosen it up too many more times because I don't know how much life the old come-along's got left in it. I think we're spot on. There's 16 there. I would say we're within a quarter of an inch, so that should be an 1/8 inch either way. We can cheat the front end over if we got it. We're going to double check though, because that's what engineers do. Alright, we're going to take everything loose, and we're going to grab a bumper and set it up there, and then see what happens. Because if we run it inside to go put the bumper on, it definitely won't work and we'll be back out here again. Has it got a body lift in it? Seems really high for some reason, but
Oh, I think it's good.
so the way these things are mounted, there's a bolt on each frame rail at the bottom. These things get bolted to the top of the frame, and then the bumper bolts to that, and then there's those lateral bars that go out sideways. So let's get these mounted first. We can have those outside ones later, but these ones I'm pretty sure you got to get in there first. So. We noticed there should be a body mount bushing in between the core support and this bracket here, so we're going to go ahead and take these loose and see if we can't find something to put in there, because otherwise our bumper is going to be sitting up too high. We're not going to have the right gaps, and we got to have nice gaps on this gym. So let's take that loose and see if we can find a puck of some sort to put in there. Both sides are like that. Looky there, we got some body mount bushings in there. These are leftovers from the OBS project, the regular cab shortbed 4x4. So they're not the exact right ones, but it's better than it was. It's not metal on metal. And you gotta have rubber on the bottom and rubber on the top so that that front end can go up and down. If you just have it on the bottom side, then that can only go up. If you only got it here and not down there, it can only go down, it can't go up. So rubber on both sides, always remember that. Sometimes you can put rubber on the top side too, but you gotta let her move in both directions. So I got our brackets set up here. There's plenty of room now. We might have to trim some off of this, adjust it up and down, or put more in there, but I think this is gonna be good enough for now. Like I said, ideally we get the right ones, but
they'll work. It's better than what there was on there before. So let's throw a bumper on it and see what happens. All right, it's on there. It's got a little bit of twist to it. Let's see if we can't get that fudged out of it, and then we'll send it. Oh yeah, we got to put the license plate back on because it's personalized. All right, bumper's on. Then we got that brace put on the passenger side. I figured that's most likely going to be the side you're going to clip something with because you can't see over there as well as you can over here on the driver's side. So I'll probably just throw a bumper bolt in there with a couple washers to take up the slack and put in this side to fill the hole on the bumper. But I don't like the way that it's sitting, and I think it's because the frame rail is tipped up, which is causing the core support to be sitting up too high. So I'm going to take this pipe wrench over here and reef on it a little bit and see if that straightens the frame rail, which straightens the core support, which gets our gaps better. So let's see what happens. Hopefully I don't twist it right off the lift and drop it on the melon, because that wouldn't be good. You can see there's a pretty good gap between the grill and the bumper there, and she's tight on this side. So if I twist on that, it should pull that core support bracket down. It should move the core support down and get to line up better with the bumper, in theory. I don't know what I thought when I was thinking that I was going to twist the whole frame. I'm not that strong. Yeah, right. Anyway, that's what's got to happen. What if you tied it to the floor of a trailer or a rollback? Jacked it up, that would pull. I bet it would. So I got this steering stabilizer. It's made by KYB, got it from Rock Auto. Let's go ahead and put this on there. It looks like they were factory equipped with one, so we may as well put that on there. Pretty straightforward, comes with all the hardware. Here we go. Probably put the ram the wrong direction. I got it facing the inside. But it should function just fine either way. It's got to be better than it was before when it didn't have a steering stabilizer on it. So it came with this mounting stud here, and then we just used the existing mounting stud over there, even though it came with one, but it's going to drive way better now. Probably, Duff says. All right, one more thing that bothers me. So the right battery with the right cable. So we got a top post battery with side post cables. These are interesting adapters. I've never seen them with this 90-degree L in them before, but anyway, we're going to throw a side post battery in here. That way it just cleans it up, and I don't like these adapters, and it's one more connection to get loose or corroded or what have you. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. And we're going to put the right hardware, and we're also going to put the right hardware back in these side post cables. So neat part about that is the rubber retains the factory style bolts, so don't ever cut that rubber off. Back in action with a new Atlas BX Dynamic Power Menards special that's been sitting on the shelf for quite some time, but it's brand new yet. Called my pal B.O. He claims to be a transmission expert, and he said, go ahead, unhook one of the transmission cooler lines, put it in a bucket, fire this thing up, and see if it pumps fluid right away or if it doesn't. I'm guessing it's not gonna, because I'm guessing either the pump is shot or there's an internal leak somewhere that it's blown by that. So let's check it out and see. I don't know what this is proven, but we'll go ahead and do what B.O. says, because he's had way more transmissions apart than I have. The handy part is we got two transmission lines right here with hoses hooked up, so we'll just pop one of those loose, put it in a bucket, and see what happens. Which end's it going to come out? Is any going to come out? Okay! Well, we got oil pressure right away, so that means the pump's working. So we must have an internal leak downstream from the pump. Well, since it's immediately pumping fluid, that means that our torque converter is engaged to our pump, and our pump has got fluid in it, and our pump is pumping fluid. So somewhere in there, we got either a worn bushing or an improperly installed bushing or the wrong bushing or a blown out seal or improperly installed seal. But anyway, that fluid's getting by internally somewhere, so it's probably got to come apart. But it drives good other than slow going into gear, so we're just gonna wing it. It's gotta come apart anybody. So if we smoke it, we're not really out anything. And I'm not tearing it apart because I have no idea what to even look for. And it'll probably do worse things, even better, when I tear it apart and try to put it back together. So we're just gonna avoid that. I think we're gonna hook that line back up, close the hood, and we're gonna go ahead and test drive this thing finally. This is why we don't put fuel cells in LS swap square bodies. You can see where they had to cut out the floor for the sump and then the fittings. Yeah, so we got to fix that. Looks like they started cutting the front out and putting it that direction, but then they found there's a cross member there, so they abandoned that ship, and they should have just abandoned the whole fuel cell and ran with the stock tank. But we got so much more room for activities now, Duff.
Look at all this floor space. We do aerobics in here. So many activities.
Now you don't have to stand on a fuel cell while you're hanging onto the roll bar and chasing Forrest Gump around.
All right, let's take this bad mama jamma for a test drive. You gonna be able to jump up in there? He's like, I'm an old dog, but I can do it. Anything for a ride. You probably want your window down with this busted off window crank. Sorry, buddy. I know, no thumbs. Put that on the list to fix. Window cranks. All right, get out of your seat back. So I think the key is you just give it a little bump of the throttle, and then it goes ahead and goes into gear. So yeah, just gotta boost that fluid. I know, you want the pets. We're going for a drive though. Definitely did not get to fixing the sloppy column. So you put it in gear. Oh, well, it took off right away that time. Who knows? Brakes are good. Not running very good there. What's the deal? Let's check the codes. Like I said, it kind of seemed like it was not running that great for a second there anyway. Do 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 do. No fault codes. That's the beauty of LS swaps. You get the OBD2 reader, so if you're an idiot like me, you don't have to try to think what's wrong. You just let the computer tell you. Why is it running so terrible? It's got a big stumble like it's a quadribog. Speedo's working though. So many rattles. Fuel pressure? Why is it not giving us a code, a lean code or something? Knock sensor 1, circuit, low bank 1. Well, the only thing we messed with was the fuel system. So let's go and hook a fuel pressure gauge up and see what we got. Yeah, as soon as you go to get into it, it falls on its face. Like it's not getting enough fuel. Did we plumb the pump wrong? Did we not have good power to the pump? We're gonna find out. So I think we got a bad fuel pressure regulator. It's got a new one on it, but with fuel pressure regulator hooked up, I'm only getting like 40 PSI of fuel pressure. But if I go ahead and unhook the vacuum port going to that, we get 50. And that's where we wanna be at. So let's run it like that, see what happens. I got a plug on the vacuum port, and let's test it out. It's kind of meant starting funny, so let's see what starts better. That's how an LS should start. And you should have about 50 pounds of fuel pressure in an LS, so that's telling me that that regulator is bad and it's dumping pressure back at 40 PSI instead of 50 PSI. And as you can see, that's a shiny new fuel pressure regulator down there, so yay aftermarket replacement components. I'm just gonna leave that on there for now and see what happens. Rounded up this fuel rail off another LS, and all you gotta do to swap this fuel pressure regulator out, which is what we're gonna do, is steal this used one, because I presume it was working before. Anyway, you pop that clip off, you know, so easy. And just pop that bad boy out of there. Bada bing, bada boom. Make sure the screen's on there, it's nice and clean. Maybe blow the crap out of there, and then smear a little, not silicone, DD Speed Shop.
Ugh, honestly, it's like embarrassing.
Smear some Vaseline on there, some type of lubricant so it slides in there, doesn't tear that O-ring. And then pop her in, put your clip back on, bada bing, bada boom. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. One potato, two potato, there we go.
horsepowers now. I wonder if I got one of those laying around on the shelf, or if we got to steal a used one of another LS. Oh, all the horsepower now. The good news is those fuel pressure regulators are super easy to swap out. You don't even really need any tools. The bad news is if you go buy another new one, it's probably not any good either. So good luck with that. All right, new used fuel pressure regulator installed. Let's test it out, Duff says. Might have been some air in the system. I don't know. That's what I'm chalking it up to. Super responsive. If only we could say the same for the transmission. And go. There we go. Let's give her a little goosey goose, see what happens, Duff. Oh yeah. She's right there. Make a little lap around the old country block. So if I've only driven this thing about a half mile on the highway. Hey, speedometer is working. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's working. Between the tires and the holes in the floor and wind, obviously. It's awful loud in here, but it's mostly tires. The old Achilles are real screamer stuff. There's a vibrational rattle I can hear. Now it's gone. It's like, I don't know what it is. Something rattling against an exhaust pipe. Went away, so fixed it. Let's check our speed here with the old speedometer app, not a paid promotion. It says 62 and we're doing 54. Yeah, not bad. It doesn't really wander all over the road. I mean, it drives like an old four-wheel drive, so the bushings and the springs will certainly help. I'm sure it could use an alignment. There's hardly any play in the steering box and everything's tight up front, so I would probably just run it, maybe fix the seal in the steering box. There's that rattle again. It's like a bolt. Just tap, tap, tap-a-roo it against the side of the exhaust pipe.
Just tap it in. Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
The brakes are spot on as well. I think if a guy took that mud truck cab that we took off, which is really solid, or it seemed like it was really solid, and put on here, threw some new door seals, window seals and stuff in it. I mean, it already needs a windshield. The floors are shot. The window regulator is stripped out. It's got a bunch of rattles. Just swap the cabs. This thing would be great. You already got to swap the steering column. Scuff it, shoot it. Shin and I talked about getting like some of them turbo cans and just paint it orange and white. I've always wanted an orange and white, or Hugger orange and white, 73, 74, white top, white stripe down the middle. Hard part would be finding all the trim, but you can just scuff it and shoot it and paint it and find the trim as need be, or better yet, paint the trim on. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't fix this cab. Is it a factory air cab? It is a factory air cab, which everybody just puts aftermarket AC in. Mechanically, pretty good. I got the bushings for the front end. I got a seal for the steering box. That'll go to the new owner. I don't want to own this thing. I think I would just run this transmission until it craps out, if it ever does, or if you're good with a turbo 350, just go ahead and open this up and fix it. Maybe swap another one in. If I were to keep it, I would put a 4L60 or a 4L80 in it, and then a 208 transfer case. And the hard part is to run either of those, you got to have speed input stuff. So it sounds like you can get like a Walter is the brand, speed sensor for the 208s. Or if you run a two-wheel drive, 4L80E, it's got 2-speed inputs, outputs, and you don't need it. I don't know, I haven't dug into it a ton, but I would probably put a 60 in it because I like 60s, and then put a 208 behind that, and then just put the speed sensor kit in it, and then have an overdrive. If I'm gonna go through the work of pulling that transmission again, which I already did once, I'm putting an overdrive in this thing just to get the RPMs down. And then, yeah, then you get a little bit better transfer case. You get part-time four-wheel drive as opposed to this, whatever it is in the old 203. They seem like pretty robust transfer cases, though. We flogged on that 56 Pontiac quite a bit.
Really, that's the transmission and transfer case that should be in here, but I don't feel like taking that thing apart right now. So yeah, somebody needs to own that. Price and availability for this thing in the video description. I know I paid $3,500 for it, but I got some time and some money into it. I'm not looking to get rich. I really don't want to keep it. It's a big project, but it's one of those you could drive it as you're working on it, because that's what this guy was doing, was driving it and enjoying it. Who knows? Nobody buys it. Maybe Chin and I will pick away at it a little bit, but we're not four-wheel drive guys, and we got too many four-wheel drives in the yard that we don't even drive. I hardly drive my 71 Ford anymore, just because there's so much stuff, and because the Amazon carburetor we put on is terrible. So I need an aluminum intake for a 400 Ford to put on there in a Edelbrock, and then it'll be great again, which is what we should have done when we had the engine out on a stand, but I did not. Sucks because new ones are like 400 or 450 bucks. Just outrageousness. But anyway, yeah, we got the OBS four-wheel drive. We got a bunch of late model four-wheel drives. I'm not into four-wheel drives, just too many more moving parts. They sit too high. It's hard for Duff to get in. It's hard to load stuff in the back. They don't ride as nice. So yeah, somebody needs to own this thing. Hit us up, mortskerepair@gmail.com. Like I said, price and availability in the video description. We'll put it on mortske.com. You can also go check out ball caps, t-shirts, banners, magnetics, not magnetic super scrapers, but we do have super scrapers available. Get them while they're hot. But we got magnetic screwdrivers and magnetic can koozies. We got decals. We got sweatshirts. We got mechanics shirts, and we got the Floyd Cotterpin Hawaiian shirts. We just got the mechanic shirts in. We got the Body by Mortske decal. Go check that out. You guys buying that stuff is a great way to support the channel. We appreciate you watching. But yeah, go check out mortske.com. And you guys buying merch there is what pays the bills around here lately. So appreciate everybody that's purchased stuff. Go check it out. I don't know, this thing is not bad. A bunch of squeaks and rattles. I think it's totally drivable with the slow to engage. That guy'd been driving it that way. Seems all right to me. The blinkers work. Oh, just soaks up the railroad tracks. Yeah, for an old Squarebody and being four-wheel drive, short bed also, so it doesn't ride as nice as a long bed. It's pretty good. Wheels, tires, and stance are about spot on this thing. It's got the 33s with just a little baby 2-inch lift, so they fill out the wheel well nice and they don't rub. Nothing looks sillier than guys with a 4 or 6-inch lift and 31s or 33s and all this room in the wheel well, and it's just a waste. The seat is even decently comfortable. Oh, sometimes when you stop, it's a little slow to take off again. I suppose once you get the pump not spinning fast enough, it doesn't build enough pressure to blast it by whatever it's leaking on. Shift's great. Obviously it has no kick down. That would be the nice part about putting a 4L80E in it, is then you'd get all your kick down stuff back. Let's go ahead and check our codes. See if we got anything. Knock sensor, knock sensor. I'm not too worried about knock sensor codes, and they're easy enough to throw in there anyway. I was talking to my buddy last night at the car show that does a lot of these, and he says the aftermarket knock sensors kind of suck. And he also says that they adjust your timing. So he says you want to have them in there. So it's probably worth looking into, because otherwise it'll retard your timing and then you won't get all the power the 5.3 has to offer. Oh yeah. You mash her down without a kick down, it still takes off pretty good. It really is pretty hard to beat an LS. I know everybody loves their small blocks and their carburetors, but when you get an LS dialed in and working, pretty dang hard to beat. Jump in, hit the key, ready to go. Parts are cheap, parts are available. It's hard to stop at a parts store and get spark plugs for a small block Chevy anymore. They're just becoming obsolete at the parts stores around here anyway. Well, I think that was a pretty successful test drive. Made her back to the shop, no problems. Speaking of the shop, we're probably gonna lose it the way that things are going lately. So if you would kindly go check us out on Patreon and support us if you want, or like I said earlier, the merch. I mean, watching helps, but things are a little tough lately, so yeah. Anyway, we gotta sell this thing or we're gonna lose said shop, so somebody needs
to own this thing. Needs to go away, because I don't foresee us getting attached or going through the effort of swapping a cab or taking it any further. So yeah, hit us up, mortskerepair@gmail.com. Price and availability in the video description. With that being said, I think we're going to wrap this up. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate all you guys supporting us, watching, liking, sharing, comment, subscribing, the Patreon people, the merch people, the people who sent us stuff. So yeah, 77 Chevy Shortbed, fleet side, 4-wheel drive. I don't know that I've ever had a Shortbed 4-wheel drive, so that's pretty neat. It's already got an LS in it. I think this thing's turnkey. I would say throw your earbuds in so you can cover up the rattles and the noise, and you could drive this thing just about anywhere. So fly in, we'll pick you up at the airport, drive this sucker home. We got a clean title for it. Let's check out our gauges here. It doesn't seem like it's running hot. It shifts pretty good once you get the RPMs up. Fuel gauge would be nice. 83 degrees Celsius. I don't know. This thing doesn't go to Americanisms, Fahrenheit's 83. So 100 would be 212. So yeah, it's probably, you know, 180, 190 degrees, right where it needs to be. And yeah, that's all you really need to know. It's running cool. It's got oil pressure because it ain't clattering. We fixed that oil leak. Yeah. Throw a set of gauges in this thing. Should be good, huh, Duff? It's got a speedometer that works now. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Go check out our other videos. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Remember, it doesn't matter how you get it done, so long as you're having fun. Squarebodies, LSs, real fun. All right, on to the next one. Oh, I didn't even notice this camouflage steering wheel cover. It's Realtree.